So in this problem, we have a school and it has 99 lockers in a row. So imagine 99 lockers all on one wall. So the first student goes through the school and they start opening every single locker. So they go through all 99 lockers and all 99 lockers are left open. The second student comes along and what they do is they go to every second locker. So they're going to skip the first locker, go to the second. And if it's open, they'll close it. If it's closed, they'll open it. So they'll do the opposite. So since they're all open, the second student goes through and he's going to close the second. So leave the first one open, close the second, leave the third one open, close the fourth, leave the fifth one open, close the close the sixth, and every even one he's going to close because they're all open from the first student. Okay, and then the third student comes along and what they're gonna do is go to every third locker. And if the locker is open, they're gonna close it. And if it's closed, they're gonna open it. So they're gonna go to the third student's gonna go skip the first locker, which is open from the original. The second student skipped the first one. She's gonna skip the second locker, which is now closed because the second student came through and closed it. And she goes to the third locker. So she skips the first and second, she goes to the third. And since that one is open, they're going to close that locker and then skip the fourth and fifth and go to the sixth. And if it's open, they'll close it. If it's closed, they'll open it. Okay, and then they skip the seventh and eighth and go to the ninth. So every third locker they'll stop at and do whatever the opposite is. If it's open, they'll close it. If it's closed, they'll open it. And the fourth person goes, etc., etc., etc. Now this goes on till the 99th student is done. So the question then is, which lockers are open and which ones are closed? Okay, so this is a little bit of a strange problem, and 99 lockers is a lot of lockers to go through. It's really hard to keep track of this. So one way to solve problems is to make a big problem smaller and see if you can see patterns in the smaller problem that you can extend to the bigger problem. So this is a strategy we're going to use. So I've made a table for you here, and we're only going to do this with 18 lockers. Okay, so instead of doing all 99 lockers, we're just going to look and see what happens when there's only 18 lockers. Okay, so what's going to happen is the first person is going to go through all the lockers and they're going to leave them open. So I'm just going to use a circle for open. And we want to keep track of what's happening to all of these lockers. Now it looks like a big job, but as we go along, you'll see it actually gets easier as we get to the fourth, fifth, sixth student, because the number of lockers that you skip is going to be more. So that's the first person's done. They're all done. So the second person is going to come along and they're going to skip the first locker. So that's going to be left open. And in fact, if we want, we can actually just take this all the way down to the bottom here. Okay, because with that locker now, everyone's going to skip that locker because it's the first locker. So that one is the first person opened it, and no one else is going to touch that locker because the second person is going to start at the second locker, the third person is going to start at the third locker. And so this is going to be left open. Okay, so that first locker is just going to be left open, and that second locker is now closed. Okay, they're going to skip to this one, and since they're all open, this one's a little bit easier because we can just skip every second locker and just open up those lockers. Okay, now it's not done. Now we got to go to the third person. But the nice thing about the third person, maybe I'll just fill in. Now, when you do this, it's really, really important that you keep track of all your lockers, okay? And that you keep an accurate record of what's going on here. So don't get confused and kind of skip and get distracted. You have to make sure that this is done relatively accurately. The first few are the key because after a while it gets easier. Okay, so that's the second person done. Now we're going to move on to the third person. So the third person is going to skip the first locker and the second locker and start at the third locker. And since it's open, they're going to close that third locker. Now the nice thing is now, we don't have to worry about the second locker anymore because everyone else is going to skip the first and second locker now. So the fourth person's going to start at the fourth locker. So this person then, we can just say, well, this ends up being closed. Okay, so that locker is closed. So we know the end result of the first locker and the second locker. The first locker is left open at the end. The second locker is left closed at the end. Okay, and so we'll continue on to the third person. They're going to go to the sixth locker. Now this one's closed, so they're going to go ahead and open it. Okay, they're going to go to the ninth. It's open, so they're going to close it. The 12th locker is closed, so they're going to open it. The 15th locker is open, so they're going to close it. And the 18th locker is closed, so they're going to open it. Okay, so everything else transfers down. Now, it's really important that you keep track of all this. Now, if you're good at tracing back up, you can trace back up, or you can just fill in. But make sure when you do this transfer that now this fourth locker is closed, open, open, closed, closed, open, open, closed, closed, open. Okay. Now, I'm not going to keep filling in because I'm just going to trace back up and see what's going to happen to the last locker. So I'm just going to do a couple more here. So we go to the fourth person. The fourth person is going to skip the third locker, first, second, and third lockers. So now this locker is left closed. So locker 1 is open, locker 2 is closed, locker 3 is closed, and locker 4, we're going to go to locker 4. Since it's closed, it's now open. We skip to locker 8. It's closed, so now it's open. So now we have open, 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 open. We go to locker 12, that's going to get closed. And we're going to skip to the next one, open, and we don't know what's happening there. Now, instead of tracing back up, I'm just going to go back to the last one that's open. Okay, so the last locker last state of the locker, we're just going to record that as a final state. So when we go to the fifth person is, we're going to leave the first, second, third, and fourth lockers. Okay, so that the fourth locker now is in its final state. So we're going to trace that down. Okay, and that fourth locker is going to end up open. And this is what we want, this bottom row. We want to see if we can figure out what's going on with that bottom row. And we're going to then go to the fifth locker. And since I'm just going to trace up, it's going to be open. So in the fifth row, now it's closed. In fact, the sixth person is not going to go. So I'm actually just going to transfer that down and say that one's going to be closed. Okay, so closed, we're going to go to 10. That's closed, so now we're going to open it. We go to 15. It's closed, so we're going to open it, and then that's it. So you can see that now that we're getting into bigger numbers, we're doing bigger skips where there's less accounting going on here. Now, if you really want, you can fill these in. Right? This is open, 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 close, closed, closed, open. Right? You can do that if you like. But really, it's just easy enough just to keep track of go back up to the last state that it was left in. Okay, so then you go to the sixth person. The sixth person now is going to close that locker. They're going to skip to 12, and they're going to open that locker, skip to 18, and close that locker. And now we have the sixth locker. It ends up in a closed state. Okay, and then you can go to the seventh locker, seventh person. Okay, and what I want you to do is figure out what lockers are left open and closed. And I'll give you a hint. There are more lockers closed than open, and there's something interesting about the lockers that are left open. So I want you to stop. I'm going to stop the video here. I don't want you to go on to the next one. I want you to fill out this table yourself. Okay, in the next one I will show you the solution of the filled table.